So today I want to talk to you about shared caregiving. So how many of you out there are like me where you come from a pretty big family? And in that family, hi Christine, hi Debbie, how many of you get along and infamously just everything is great, you guys agree on everything, there's never an issue? Not true. I know in my family I have three sisters, and we have four very different personalities. So when you add my dad in the mix, there's another personality, and basically when we need to make decisions together, it becomes like a big argument because everybody feels that they're right, and everybody feels like they want to say, and nobody's listening to each other. So I wanted to discuss today the topic of shared caregiving. And one of the solutions for these arguments is something called a family agreement. So I just want to give you some numbers. New York Presbyterian put out a release that pretty much said that there is 1 in 5 Americans is a caregiver. That's a lot of people. That's over 40 million people that are assuming the caregiver role. And on average, those 1 in 5 people spend about 24 hours a week caring for either a friend or a family member. It's a lot of time and it's a lot of energy, and there are full-time caregivers and there are part-time caregivers. But no matter how you look at it, it takes a village sometimes, especially if it's a parent or a special needs child. There can be a lot involved and a lot of decision making, and not always is the person making the decisions the best person in that family to do that. And one of the things that we found with my mom was, I'd say the first 6 or 8 months was total chaos between my sisters, my dad and I, until we got our footing, until we learned what each other's strengths were. And then we kind of had an unofficial agreement of who would be handling prescriptions, who would be handling medical bills, who would be handling financials, and who would be doing some of the research and coming up with questions for the doctors, and who would be going to appointments. It took a lot of us to kind of work through that. And some of the common shared caregiving is parents that are divorced and may have a special needs child. Even parents that are married that have a special needs child. Do they know every aspect of what needs to be done? Are they aware of medications? Are they aware of what doctors to go to? What if one spouse, has the child and the other is not around? There's a lot involved. So one of the things is elder care parents, or if you have a sibling. I know that if one of my sisters suddenly became chronically ill or needed a caregiver, I'd jump up in a second. I'd probably, of course, voice my opinion over my brothers-in-law, and it's just knowing the roles. So one of the major solutions to that is having a family agreement, and this is something that can be done before someone gets chronically ill. It could be something that's discussed and decided when people are perfectly healthy, so that they are in a space where they can tell you what their wishes are. And I'm not just talking about wishes for when someone passes. I'm talking about even just for the caregiving wishes. And they may want someone may be embarrassed if they have a son to have their son changing their diaper or something like that, and they may want their sibling, their sister, to do it. So knowing what somebody's wishes are and then putting that down into a family agreement can be a very important tool in shared caregiving. Some of the things to consider when doing a shared agreement is financial care, household care, who's going to be taking care of managing the household, things that need to be cleaned, doing laundry, changing sheets. If you don't have a cleaning lady, someone's personal care, like I mentioned before about changing someone's diaper. Somebody might feel embarrassed to have their son do it, but maybe they would want their sister to do it. Transportation and appointments. Who's around to take this person to their doctor's appointments? Who's going to be the voice for this person to ask questions and be privy to everything that's going on? And also, you know, it's always important to know the end of life care wishes of somebody. Hopefully you don't get to that point, but it's always good to know, you know, what somebody's wishes are. Now, family agreements can be legal documents. You can go to an attorney and have one drawn up. You can go see an elder care attorney, or, oops, we almost had a little, I would have had a real close up if the camera fell on me. Anyway. So family agreements can, you can have an attorney draw it up if you want something that's legally down, especially if there's any financial involved. If somebody needs to sell their home because their loved one is moving in with, let's say a parent needs to sell their home and they're going to move in with their daughter and they need to build an extra wing. So that involves some financial changes and some real estate changing hands. So that you might want to have done by an attorney, drawing up those kinds of papers. Knowing that this is what the patient wants and they're of their right sound of mind when they make the decision, and that's something that the family agrees on. So what are some challenges that you guys face? What are some arguments that you have with your family, whether caring for a parent? You know, love to discuss some solutions and some ways to kind of overcome these problems that people have with shared caregiving. There's plenty of technology that's available. There's apps that are available for shared caregiving. I know I've highlighted a few of them that help out with listing appointments and medications, things like that. There's apps that allow family members to list certain tasks that need to be done, and that you can, you know, if you know, like, mom has an appointment this day, you can show, all right, I'm off, so I'll take mom this day, but you know that prescriptions need to be picked up this way, well, this person can volunteer for that. So there are things like that. But all in all, knowing what somebody's strengths are, knowing the role that they play, is really the whole point of a family agreement. And it does not have to be a legal document. It can certainly be something that's just drawn up with the family. And I think that you'd get a better response with the family if you sat everyone together and gave everyone a choice. You know, this is what we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about mom's needs. Or if you have a special needs child, okay, so we're going to talk about little Joey's needs. This something happens to me, this stuff should be done. Or, you know, I, as husband and wife, or ex-husband, ex-wife, this is some of the roles. You're going to assume this role of financial. You know, you're going to help us pay for the aides, and you're going to assume this role of taking them to the appointments. And it just lays everything out on paper, and it just makes it simple and less questions. And everybody feels like they're pitching in. And that's really the major role in having a family agreement. And it can be very valuable, because if somebody oversteps, and that's, I mean, and you can put anything in it. If you are caring for a parent and somebody's responsible for the financial, you can certainly put in there that, hey, once a month you come together as a family and everybody's aware of, you know, mom and dad's finances, even though Sally's the one handling the finances. And you can put in there that it pretty much whatever you want, because it's your family, it's your agreement, it's your rules and roles. And I think that once people, part of the arguments is that everybody has an opinion, and everybody feels they're right, and everybody is everybody's trying to be heard at the same time, but nobody's listening to anybody else, and everybody is right, because they're giving answers and responses at the time when they have whatever information they have. So for them, that's their best decision. But they may not be fully informed, or they may not have all of the conversations. They may not have been privy to all the conversations with the doctor, so they may not know what really is the best for the loved one that is being cared for. So that's why it's always good to have a point person. Yes, Debbie, unfortunately, it is, you know, there are children, there are people that have no siblings, but being a shared caregiver doesn't have to necessarily be that you have siblings. It could be an aunt or an uncle. It could be a cousin. It can be anybody that's willing to pitch in to help out. And there are family agreements that I've even seen where people have had, you know, a paid caregiver role in there. They didn't define the person's name, but this is the role of the paid caregiver, and this person is going to be overseeing and managing that paid caregiver. So it can be used in a lot of different forms, but it's definitely a valuable tool to have. And it does not supersede anything like a healthcare proxy or a living will, not unless you were to go and have it drawn up by an attorney, in which case they can incorporate your living will and healthcare proxy into it. But this is something more to keep the family in check. That's really what it is. So that if, you know, somebody's brother or sister is jumping, you know, so if somebody's brother or sister it wants to jump in on the bills, but, you know, Judy's the one handling the bills, well, they should go to her if they have any questions about it, because she's the one dealing with the doctors and the billing and stuff like that. So it's kind of like everybody has their own little area of expertise, and you come together and you have little family meetings, and it does make things go a lot easier, and everybody should be getting along at that point because you already have your defined roles. We've decided that my dad goes to my brothers and my... So, Tamara, have you listed out what that looks like? Have you literally put down on paper who would be handling what? So you're saying you and your sister would tag team. What does that mean? What does that look like? What specifically what roles would you and your sister play? You know, and your dad, are you saying your dad goes with your brother? Oh, I see what you're saying. You're splitting up your parents. Your dad's going to your brothers, and you and your sister are taking care of your mom. But what does that look like? And is that written down? You know, who handles their financials? Because I'm sure your parents both have their financials combined. Who would be handling what? I'm sure you and your sister would want to know. I did tell them. I'm sure you and your sister would want to know what's going on with your dad, and vice versa. So your brothers would want to know what's going on with your mom. So just having that shared information, even though they may physically be at your brother's or with you and your sister, having the information and sharing it would be keeping them in the loop, and would make them feel like what they're going through, everybody's kind of together in your family, and you're one unit. I agree. You need to have them sit down and do it, because while your parents are still very much healthy, and you should know their wishes. And does your dad want to go with your brothers? Would your mom want to be with you and your sisters? So those are things that, while your parents are still within, you know, are still thinking very clearly and able to make their own decisions, those are things that they should probably be saying what they want and who should be handling what. If I haven't killed well, don't kill them. Create a plan now, and then you won't have to, because everybody would have their defined roles. So, and it's something that can change over time. You can start with a family agreement now that keeps things in place, but then as things evolve and change, you come together as a family and you change things. And aside from the family agreement, I highly recommend everybody, I don't care what age you are, have a healthcare proxy, and also have a living will. Have your wishes written down so that people are not forced to make decisions, because you never know what could happen. You can get hit by a truck tomorrow, and you just never know. And if you get to a place where you are not there, or you're mentally not there to make those decisions, it's extremely difficult for anybody to have to make that decision. And if you write it down, it's definitely, you know, if you, like I learned with my mom, because if she had on her license that she was an organ donor, it doesn't matter what my father or I said. I was her healthcare proxy. By law, that's her saying that she was a donor. So if somebody wanted to be an organ donor and it's on their license, it doesn't matter what the healthcare proxy or anybody else says. They take that license as this person is a donor. So it's always good to have people know your wishes. Absolutely. Or you can write them down yourself and keep them in a place that, you know, a good friend or family member might know where to find them. There are actually, I was just learning of a new software today that they have that allows you to, I was looking into it, it allows you to upload all of your agreements, all of your, like your will, your family agreement, all of your personal stuff, bank account information, whatever it is, and it's protected in this one, it was called, I forgot what the software was called, but it was protected. And you can give the password to an attorney who will then hold on to it, and if something happens to you, that password would be turned over to the person of your choosing. Or you can give it to a family member to, you know, to hold on and trust that they won't open it or go through it. But they now have things like that so that people can get their wishes, you know, what they want, where they want to be, whether they want to be cremated, buried, whether they want to be on life support or not. I mean, these are very personal decisions, and I highly advise everyone to just have it written down somewhere. But back to the family agreement, I think that it would be great. I think that you should try it, Tamara. I think that, not try it, I think that you should sit with your family after tax season and get everyone together and kind of put things in writing. Who would be responsible for what? Because it's an important, as your parents get older, or if you are dealing with a special needs child, it is very important to know what that role is for each and every person. Because it can, you know, I've seen parents fighting. I've absolutely seen parents fighting, and it's like, you know, their husband and wife, they're married, but they're fighting over what the care should be and who's going to have a bigger role. But meanwhile, you know, the mom is a stay-at-home mom and taking care of her kids who may be autistic or have special needs, and the dad is at work, but so the mom deals more on the everyday side and kind of knows more or less what's going on with the kids more so than the dad, because they're working, which is understandably so. But then when it comes to medical decisions, the mom feels she has more say because she's the one who's more involved, but the dad may feel like he's done his research and he knows as well, and then it becomes an issue. So you want to be on the same page, whether you're married and dealing with children, or dealing with elderly parents, or even your own spouse. Know your own spouse's wishes. Having a family agreement with your spouse. You know, maybe your spouse, if you're a woman, maybe you don't want your husband changing a diaper if you ever had to. If you had a stroke and needed him to change a diaper. There are some women that don't want that. Maybe you'd rather have your daughter do it. So having that just written down, it just makes it that much easier for everybody. So, do I have any questions? I feel like I'm yapping and yapping. And we do have some checklists. So if anybody's interested in getting a copy of my my family agreement checklist, things that you should know before starting your family caregiving agreement, just, you know, you could either message me and we'll send it over, or you can just simply comment here, yes, you know, send me the agreement, and I will contact you for your email address to send over the agreement. I'm happy to share that with anybody willing to. Hi, Tammy. I'm happy to help anybody. Mary will get that right out to you. I'm happy to help, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And if there's any topics that you guys want to learn about, or you have some challenges and some problems with in dealing with caregiving, please, by all means, reach out to me. I'd love to. I'm always looking for topics to go over with you guys and find ways and solutions to help. So on that note, I will bid everyone a